Hello and welcome back to Parents Canada Talk Radio here on News Talk Saga 960. I am Jason Thompson, Dad, and I'm really excited this week because I have a special guest co-host, the person that I actually parent with. So I am here with Genevieve DeVries. Genevieve, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
You excited?
Excited.
Are you nervous?
Nervous.
Of course. Really, you just described what it was like to be a parent. Excited and nervous. So, when we started the show, we want the show to be about trusted journalism. We want the show to be about really empathetic to parents because we have so much that we have to deal with on a daily basis. I know that having to negotiate with you and to work with you to be able to pick kids up. We're already trying to think about what time we got to pick up kids from camp today and all that sort of stuff. It was nice to be able to drive in with you for that sort of thing. So when we started, we talked about really our parenting styles, what it was that we bring to the table. You have a really, I don't want to say very unique, because again, the teachers out there today, because we're talking about summer slide, will probably slap me on the wrist saying there's no such thing as very unique. So unique thing about you is you've been a parent for a while. And
a very long time.
You're a family lawyer. So you get to see parenting from a lot of different perspectives. So why don't we start by kind of introducing you and talking a little bit about how you parent?
It's true. So I have been a parent for 3 decades, pretty much. 3 decades of my life dedicated to parenting. So I have my oldest son is 27.
What?
And, I did a great job with him. He's off to the races. I have a daughter just finishing second year university, a 12-year-old, and you and I, of course, have an 8-year-old together that we parent together. So I've had so many different parenting experiences coming from so many different places in my life because I've been a teenage mom, I've been a single mom, I've been a professional mom. So I really, when clients come to me, as parents, I can bring a lot of empathy to that situation because I know what it's like.
It's so interesting to me. I think now we
didn't family mom, but also
blended family mom. Yeah. We did some writing actually for Parents Canada magazine back in the day. Family size blender, which you can find on the brand new Parents Canada website. If you haven't seen it, it is amazing. It's clean. It's great because it helps you understand at what age you can click through if you're a toddler parent, if you're a teenager parent. There's all sorts of great information on the site to be able to go there. Okay, so that's you as a parent in general. What kind of advice, like if you were going to give one piece of advice to new parents, we were talking about this downstairs before, what's that one piece of advice you'd give?
Well, we were joking because I think it's a piece of advice that I only learned through my relationship with you, which is don't panic. Don't panic, people. It'll all turn out okay. We've all been there. We've all had that scare, or the C comes back on a report card, or there's a fight in the playground. And it's so easy to get so worked up in the moment and not see the big picture about how our kids are turning out because of the daily grind of doing the right thing over and over and over again. These are blips. But it's hard to see the blip when it happens.
This is true. I mean, between the two of us, we parent 6 kids. I like to say have domain over 6 kids. I find that when you have more kids, it's the classic dog situation. You've ever heard this story, which is, you have your first kid, right? And the pacifier falls on the floor. And it's like, well, that pacifier goes and we'll put it in the dishwasher sort of thing. And then the second one, it's like, well, I'll just wash it off. And the third one is like you just reach out and let the dog lick it off and put it back in the mouth of the kid.
Absolutely.
I find the more you have, the less nervous that you get about everything.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we do get nervous about is this concept of summer slide, which is what we're going to talk about today. Was it Sunday night? We went out for a ghost walk. It was really cool, a little small town ghost walk.
Amazing.
And at the end of the walk, I ran into a grade 7 teacher. And I said, you're the perfect person to talk to because we're talking summer slide this week. And he looked at me and he said, what's the summer slide? And the more people that I've talked to about this, the more that's the feedback I'm getting. What is that thing? This grade 7 teacher said, the advice he gave me was, look, you know what? There are kids who are in school. I guess I should say what the summer slide is in the first place, which is it's the brain drain. It's you finish school at the end of June, you start school at the beginning of September. How do you maintain the skills that the teachers have worked so hard to help build and the confidence that you build within in the child in the first place?
And on the other side of the coin, is it necessary?
Well, and that's the question, right? Is the summer slide a real thing, and what does that look like? Now, I know you've had personally some experience with the kids around summer slide. So why don't you share that story?
Right. Well, it's the perfect story to illustrate what I was talking about the panic. So my eldest daughter came home from grade 1 with a C in reading, which of course caused me to go into quite a tizzy and a panic. So I spent a good chunk of that break working on what I identified was the issue in reading, which was phonetics. So we were doing a lot of sight word reading at school, but not really learning the sounds that allow you to sound out words. So I can say that I doubt it was my intervention, but she did, graduate top of the class from, high school, valedictorian, now just finished her second year at U of T. So it's funny. I mean, do these interventions matter? Don't they? Who knows? But I've certainly been that parent who panicked and thought, I need to use this break to get that child where they need to be when the next grade starts. So
you asked the great question, do the interventions work? So here's some of the data. Here is some of the points out there, because I'm not a big fan of parenting by the I think methodology. Is there stuff to support this?
Oh, you love data.
Oh,
you
yeah.
love it.
Short answer, the summer slide is a real thing. Now, so if it is a real thing, that doesn't necessarily mean that a traditional didactic education over the summer, you need to put them in school over the summer. There are lots of ways to do that. But here are some of the pieces out there. We know, for example, as much as 25 to 50% of the school gains throughout the year can actually be rolled back. I've heard it's almost like putting your kid back to May. The bigger area where that seems to happen, a lot of the studies are saying, is not in reading. If you read as little as, I think it's 3 books over the summer, you can kind of maintain that momentum. I was talking to somebody from Halifax the other day, and he was saying to me that they sent a piece of paper home at the end. The teacher sent a piece of paper home at the end of the year that said, listen, you really, really need to keep the kids going, because otherwise they can actually fall back as much as 2 grade levels. I think that sounds like scare tactics, because I haven't seen data to back that up, but that is something to think about. The bigger area is math. So math is the opportunity that if you have kids, and I have a daughter who's trying to get into, or is getting into high school. I guess you don't have to try to get into high school.
They don't audition anymore for high school.
But she's struggling with numeracy. And so, for me, from the summer slide perspective is, I've got a son going into university, so I'm teaching him life skills. He doesn't need to work towards a curriculum, but the daughter does. And so, we're having an assessment done so we can figure out what the actual problem is, because it's easy to say, oh, it's a math problem. Well, that's a big thing, right? Let's break it down. Is it rote memorization? Is it problem solving? Things like that. What we do learn from some of the studies is that there is definitely the idea that when it comes to math, it isn't the problem-solving skill set that is the issue. It is the numeracy stuff. So it's the building blocks, the times tables, and things like that kids seem to forget over the course of the summer. So there's a couple elements from the data point. The other area is kind of socioeconomic, right? Is that they find, again, the data points are saying that middle-class families have less of a struggle than lower-class families, and that's actually a really important thing, because you want to create as many opportunities as possible. The data points say that, keep reinforcing this in the home over the summer is a good thing. Now, I'm not the only one with an opinion on this sort of thing. We actually have somebody coming up after the break who's going to be able to share that with us. Her name's Mariangela Leto. She's from the Oxford Learning Centre, and she's going to answer some questions that we've got about not specifically what is the summer slide, but how can you avoid this from a traditional perspective and then from a broader perspective. And we want to hear more from you. Parents Canada is available at Parents Canada. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on the Facebook, as my mom likes to say. And you can call us in. We're at 416-640-0200. So give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. We are going to be back more with Parents Canada Radio in just a minute on News Talk, Saga 960. Welcome back to Parents Canada Talk Radio. I'm Jason Thompson. I am here with
Genevieve DeVries.
All right, we are talking summer slide, and we want to hear from you. You can find us on social media at Parents Canada, or you can call us at 416-640-0200. But in the meantime, we want to hear from somebody who's got a lot of experience with the summer slide. Mariangela Leto is from Oxford Learning Centres, And she's not just somebody involved with Oxford Learning Centre. She actually has a master's in adult education and community development from OISE at the University of Toronto. I had a lovely conversation with her the other night. She really, really has her finger on the pulse of what it takes to be effective when it comes to kids. Mariangela, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you.
How are you doing today?
Excited to be here. Great, great. I'm listening into your conversations, and I feel like if you don't use the brain, you lose it over the summertime.
If you don't use the brain, you lose the brain. I like that. I like that. So let's talk about that. If you're, what does it take to use that brain? So what should kids be working on over the course of the summer?
Well, I feel like they still need to keep up the structure, so especially with academic skills, because they do slide. So the stats are 2.6 months of math skills, and also 2 months of reading is lost. So if we don't keep it up, you do lose it. So we don't have to always keep it in a formal situation. The Canadian Franchise Association actually has a variety of franchises offering different flexible summer programs, and they help with physical and mentally engaging the students. So Oxford Learning Centres is one of those franchises. And although, some kids don't want to stay in the classroom over the summertime, it's actually a real big benefit, even 2 to 3 hours per week.
And, we were talking the other night, you'd been in the office for 12 straight hours because a lot of parents were very interested in this. What are you learning that they're most interested in?
You know what? It is both English, language skills, reading comprehension, the decoding skills that we were talking about before, the phonetics, as well as math. So even our high school students, they're coming in to prepare themselves for the upcoming courses, or they're doing summer school and they want to get some extra help in the evening just to go over the concepts that are moving really quickly in summer school. But a lot of our students are really involved in reflecting over the summertime. What does that report card actually mean? Those marks that I got, how can I actually benefit myself and feel more confident going into the fall? And so we set up individualized programs for them. Even if it's just 2 to 3 hours a week, they're actually getting a lot of benefit because they go home and do some extra reading and some extra practice with math skills. And then with us, they're working on thinking through skills, thinking through different concepts.
Can you talk a bit more about that? Like, what does it seem? What's the practical application of thinking things through? How do you get kids to do that?
Well, learning is an active process. So staying with the task long enough to make meaning from it is the most important task. So it doesn't have to always be within an academic context. It could actually just be out and about at a grocery store and just, looking at your kid and saying, hey, what, if it's $2.50 I have $2.50, what could I buy with this? And getting them to just estimate and find different things there.
That's a big one, by the way. We have an 8-year-old who is constantly trying to get us to buy stuff, and I keep reminding her, don't forget about the taxes. You got to add the taxes in. Dad can't add all of the money for you.
Right. So practicing the percent applications right there. But even jumping in the pool and saying, let's find the dimensions of this pool and find out the volume of the water that it needs to fill up this pool. That's just simple little things that you can do while enjoying the summer activities.
I love that. I want to take you back because a lot of that really seems structurally around that idea of, I almost think about kids as software, and every kid is different. You kind of need to decode them a little bit. So it's not, not like there's one single thing you can apply to them. So, you've got some experience. We talked about this a fair bit the other day around assessing the child to make sure that you clearly understand what the problem is as opposed to just kind of hitting them with everything.
Exactly, and I feel that that's how we best build confidence, by first starting at their level and putting together a program that works just for them, that's individualized to them. So what we do first is find out how they learn. So we do some cognitive testing and get the strengths and weaknesses for those students. And from that, we know the right strategies to use when coaching them through the material that they need. So if we're getting their academic levels right at the end of the school year, we know exactly where they're at, what they need to brush up on from the school year, and what we can take them forward with. So any types of skills that we know will be coming up that we can just kind of alleviate any stress that may happen during the fast-paced school year.
We, one of our daughters came home with, I think it was a B- in what? What was it in?
No, I don't know.
You don't remember what it was in? You're like, look, it's a B. Oh, it was writing. Okay. So, but that's the thing. And what was the first thing I said was okay, so it's a B-.
Don't panic.
No, what I said was, let's deconstruct
across his forehead.
That's right. Don't panic.
You can see it. We're on the radio.
Right. But the idea that the B minus that's the tip of the iceberg, right? So what does the B minus mean? Where is she? And you said, well, maybe one of the places that we could probably apply to that is more reading over the summer. I believe what you said was enough with the dog man. Let's get into the chapter books. So I mean that's one place that we can start. But again, that idea of like decoding and deconstructing to say a B minus is really just a flag that says take a deeper look here.
Yes. Exactly. And a lot of our report cards are coming back where students are saying, well, why would I get an A minus? Or why do I have a C when I've made such great strides over the school year? What it really means, these grades, is it's just like a note to say, hey, let's find where exactly we have a weakness and let's practice that. Because if we practice it, we're going to gain confidence. And if we gain confidence, there'll be momentum going into the fall.
I owe you a lot here because I think you just helped me win a decade-old fight. So thank you very much for that. But let's talk about confidence, right? You mentioned that idea of confidence. And to me, it feels like that's the secret sauce, right? Is that what they're really gaining, the skill set for sure, but the ability to continue to absorb that skill set. So can you talk about the importance of confidence as a behavioral attribute and, how you continue to foster that?
Well, confidence really is the cushion for risk-taking. So we're not going to be risky and ask questions about things and basically get into a learning process if we don't have that confidence to at least try it. So, having learning coaches is really important so that they can help you kind of feel and celebrate your successes so that you can feel more confident in what it is you're doing. But the brain has to make more connections. So if you're confident to do so, then you can proceed and get, more into in-depth phonetic coding, for instance, if we're talking about reading at a grade 2 level. If a student doesn't feel comfortable reading out loud, just breaking it down a little bit for them and helping them to see that there's patterns that they can, kind of like a game. So we make it more like decoding games in order for them to feel like, wait, I can do this. I'm going to try that new word that is, a compound word. I'm going to try breaking it down a little bit.
It's interesting to me because that idea of breaking down, the other thing that I've heard you say is that idea of the kind of call and response, tell me what you learned. And a long time ago, somebody had said to me, if you really want to see how well a child is learning something is to ask them to teach it to you. So Tell me a little bit about that kind of response to make sure that you're ensuring that they are absorbing the information and they're actually turning it into learning.
Exactly. So we want them to verbalize and discuss concepts. So even when you're just reading something at home and they've just read you a book, you want to ask them questions about what is that main idea? What inferences can you make from that passage? We don't want them to just be passive in absorbing the material, and we don't want our teachers to just indoctrinate information. We would rather that the student comes up with the right questions themselves. And so it's more of an inquiry-based learning approach.
I found,
where you're guiding the student to ask questions and respond back to what they're understanding.
And you mentioned a word, I think, that really dovetails with that really nicely, which is that idea of learning coaches. Can you tell me about why you chose that kind of deliberate word and what that means in relationship to like a traditional teacher?
Well, our Oxford Learning teachers are, in fact, coaches because they have the students reflect on their learning, they have them verbalize, and they're celebrating them. So in doing all those things, we're getting the student to feel like the onus is on them to do the learning. So we need coaches to help us, to guide us through. And if a student gets stuck, of course, we're going to encourage and prompt them in the right direction, but we do want to ensure that the processing is happening.
I love that idea. We're seeing, again, in traditional adult-based learning and training that coaching is kind of the next big milestone. It's the thing that everybody is talking about because it allows for the difference between knowledge and acting on that knowledge, which is learning. And again, I may have that wrong because you're the professional and I'm a little intimidated by that. But
No, this is very right.
Well, it's true. We hear this idea of children who are only ever told that they're smart and that they're doing everything right, that they tend to be the kids who struggle a little bit to take those learning risks.
Exactly.
Oh, that's it. Can you? I want to hear some more about this. Do you have data to back it up? Do you have, Mariangela? Do you have anything that you can kind of share about that? That idea of, I don't want to say overcoaching or overpraising, but that idea of helping someone who is a high achieving didactic education person, kind of push themselves.
Well, I do find that students who have that gifted profile and that name, they become less risky in time because they're so used to being right and getting it right away. So we have to put things in place for those students as well, where they are risk-taking and they're trying new things and being challenged. Because if you just move forward with I'm always right, you get to a point where the curriculum and the knowledge-based information is a little tough. So then they are less risky and don't want to write anything down or don't want to have their input. So we try to focus on challenging students from their level, whatever level that is.
It's almost as dangerous a mindset as having it's two sides of the coin, I guess, the not having enough confidence to hit a problem and feel like you can do it, and having too much confidence that your identity is invested in, I'm the kid that's smart at math, so if I don't do this right, somehow my identity is being challenged by that. And I think it's interesting with Jason and I having a blended family, we have hit both ends of that spectrum.
Both ends of that.
Yeah.
So the key is to find out exactly where the student is and keep up with that momentum of challenging, thinking through, exploring, just continuing to reflect on what do these marks really mean? So I got an A+, okay, I don't have to practice this anymore. Well, not really. Actually, you should move forward and prepare yourself for the coming years or put things into more application. So when I say that, I mean more about the math. So we're, instead of just working on computational, you have the computational numeracy skills down. So let's move forward and put that into word problems.
I love all of the stuff that you're saying. You gave us a lot. We've had a number of conversations since Monday night, just in chatting with you about what that can mean for our kids and that sort of stuff. So, let's take this end to talk a little bit about the Canadian Franchise Association and Oxford Learning Centres. What do you want to tell us?
Well, you know what? The Oxford Learning Centres are available to help during the summer months. We have individualized programs, so we can help from the standpoint of if you're having trouble building in learning activities into the schedule this summer, we have a lot of flexible hours, daytime, evening hours, where you can just pop in for an hour and really kind of focus the students' learning before they get back. Also, just to keep the momentum up and not have that, I don't know if you've experienced this, but right before school starts, I don't want to go. The students kind of say that they want to keep summer going longer, but instead we need to try to give them the confidence and the momentum to keep going.
Mariangela,
the Canadian Franchise Association also has a list of different programs to also be active physically. So physically and mentally engaged is the key for the summer.
Physically and mentally engaged is the key for the summer. I think that's the perfect note, Mariangela. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Me.
Oh, I hope we get a chance to talk with you again.
Yes, give me a call anytime.
When we come back, we are going to talk a little bit about some of the questions that we asked. We put some questions out on social media. We've gotten some responses and that sort of stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about learning technology and the summer slide. So for now, and if you've got any more questions, we actually want to hear from you. So you can find us at Parents Canada. You can call us 416-640-0200. You are listening to Parents Canada Radio on News Talk 960. Welcome back to Parents Canada Talk Radio on News Talk 960. I'm Jason Thompson. I am here with
Genevieve DeVries.
We're working with Genevieve to teach you because it's your first time on the radio.
Partner in crime.
Where to put to be able to sit, to be able to get the microphone and that sort of stuff, because there's a disparity in my deep, incredible radio voice.
Apparently, you speak louder than me.
I've been doing this 4 weeks, like I'm a professional at this stage. We're talking summer slide. And when we talk about summer slide, we're talking about the ability to keep kids engaged and their cognitive skills so that they can hit the ground running coming in September. And earlier this week, we reached out on social media to talk to some friends, family, people who follow us on social media to see what they had to say. And you know what? The most overwhelming comment that I got was this one. Why can't we let kids be kids? Man, I hear that one a lot. So when you hear that, when you read that on the Facebook post, what did you think?
Well, it reminded me of the choices that I made for our vacation time last summer. So I had that kind of exact thought of like, okay, well, how how was I when I was a kid? What did I do when I was a kid? So we grew up until I was about 7. We grew up in the
Wait a minute,
Okanagan.
you grew up at the age of 7? That's amazing.
I grew up in the Okanagan Valley, but all my family was in Ontario. So every summer, my mother would put my brother and I, we're 13 months apart, the poor woman, she would put us on the train, and we would train it back to Ontario, visit family, and then train it back again. So I think by the time we moved back here, I'd been across Canada at least a number of times on the train. So I thought to myself, I'd like my kids to have that experience. I'd like us to get on Via and go across the country and see what there is to see. And that was an incredible experience. So I was very fortunate enough, because they have since ended the program, but the Royal Tyrrell Museum out in the Badlands of Alberta was running what they called a family citizen camp. So we took the train out, explored the Rockies, and came back into the Badlands to do a 3-day camp where we slept in prospector tents right on the Badlands, just wandered over to do fossil searches, and a really, really incredible opportunity to, view the back of the museum and that kind of thing. So that isn't traditional didactic. That isn't kids in, summer school or anything like that.
But hold on, are you telling me you can learn without having to be in front of an educator for hours a day?
Right, and so you give them those opportunities to see how grown-ups learn in real life. We had some fascinating talks, and I think what most impressed me about that camp was that they didn't dumb it down. They really, really met the kids at that level. I mean, obviously the kids that chose to participate were really, really interested in dinosaurs, but they really pitched it at a high level for even the 7-year-olds to really engage with that kind of fascinating. Most of the talk about carbon dating and the advances they've made in technology went over even my head, but it's really important, I think, for kids to have an opportunity to interact with the adult world over the summer too. I mean, I think it's important, obviously, for them to, get the basics of math, get the basics of reading, and how I love people who can spell well. That's a bit of a thing for me.
That's why you started dating me in the first place, remember? You said you'd be a great writer without realizing that I was a professional copywriter at the time. So win on social media. What's most fascinating is that, a lot of what I'm hearing, and when I hear let kids be kids, because I'm not a big fan of I'm not a big fan of, right? Like the opinion of, as opposed to give me data points and things like that. And one of the things that I'm seeing fairly regularly is this idea of moving education from a rote learning where you get barked at by a teacher, and that's probably overselling it, when you get spoken to by a teacher for hours throughout the day, and more towards this project-based approach. And you see it in grade school and high school, but the best example that I've ever seen of that is we went to a day at a school in the town where we live, and they held kind of a technology day, and this is about 5 years ago, and they were talking on a Saturday, because that's what you do on a Saturday as a parent, right? You go to a technology day at a school. And there was one teacher, and she was a grade 9 science teacher just north of Barrie. And she said, I used to stand in front of the kids for 70 minutes a day and lecture. What I do now is very different. She used the example of cell mitosis. I wanted the kids to learn cell mitosis.
Is this the reverse classroom where she does the YouTubes at night?
No, that was another one.
Talk about that.
Yeah, like Khan Academy and stuff like that. But the key here is that what she did was she would teach for 30 minutes at the beginning of a unit. Here's what cell mitosis is. These are the key things you need to learn. And then she would say to the kids, break into groups of 2. Here's a file folder with a CSI case file, right? And here's a person who died. You need to figure out how. And so that was great, because now it's up to the kids to kind of apply the learning. But then she went one step further, because the question then is well, what's the teacher doing? And we heard from our previous guest about this idea of coaching. And so what she said she does is she had them set up a Dropbox file. And in the Dropbox file were the kind of the tenets of the scientific methodology, problem, hypothesis, solution, etc. And she would then go around the classroom. And so she would, over the course of the week, she would sit with the kids and she would say, okay, let's open up your Dropbox file. And she would open up the first one and she'd say, problem. Yeah, this looks great. And hypothesis. Oh, you know what? I think I see a gap in the learning. So let me coach you on this. And she said, the learning outcomes were so much better. So, and the thing is that the kids weren't sitting there kind of just getting fired at from language. And I think as a speechwriter, I learned that audiences remember between 20 and 70% of what you're talking about. If you're super engaging, you might get them on that 70%. But if you're doing that every day, the real learning happens in the application. And so when you're going out west on the train, that is the opportunity for the kids to be able to start to absorb that sort of information where they don't realize that they're learning, but they're actually accepting a lifelong sense of learning. So if you think about you as an adult, if you love travel, if you love cooking, if you love building Lego like me, right? There's learning in that and skills-based elements that you can do that can pair up really nicely with kind of with the traditional education throughout the year. But that said, there is always the opportunity as well for some who do need additional didactic education. I mentioned my daughter. I'm literally looking at one of these assessments right now so we can figure out where the gap lies in the math side. One of the other places that we talk about education, learning is technology. And I just, every time the word technology comes out with kids, it just seems like you've just said a bad word.
People want to boo you when you talk.
And the truth is that technology can be an outstanding tool in project-based learning. We have our kids, they love making videos, right? So they make videos, they cut them, they put them together. Got the 12-year-old boy who's writing a book. We got the 8-year-old girl who's illustrating the book. We got the 13-year-old girl who is singing and recording her stuff. So technology can really work from that perspective in a really powerful way. When we put out this question, a friend of mine actually posted something. Somebody had handwritten out a list of websites that they were having their kids use over the summer. So I'm actually going to list them out because I went to a few of them. They were really great for great building block stuff. So the one that I really, really loved was coolmath.com, because Cool Math will teach you basic stuff. And you can go to places like Khan Academy and that and get some of the information. And my son who's...
We just signed up for Prodigy, did we?
Yeah, Prodigy is another one. They love it because it's games-based, right? Again, this isn't an opinion. This is based on data. Video games are not bad for your kids in the same way that ice cream isn't bad for your kids. Too much ice cream and too much video games are bad for your kids. But there is a value to a play-based approach that is rich in getting outside and kicking the ball and getting on a train and going out to Alberta or playing video games. And coolmath.com actually does a really, really good job of that. And there's a couple more. Funbrain.com, mindgames.com, pbskids.org is fantastic. I think they still have the Word Girl stuff there. I don't know if you remember the television show Word Girl. Yeah. So much fun as an adult to be able to watch that with your kids. It's not just somebody downloading educational training into your kids. It's about a superhero who's learning words, and it's fun, and it's actually voiced by a bunch of Saturday Night Live alumni. So it's fun, and there's all sorts of inside jokes for parents.
And I mean, I know as well too. I mean, we're broadcasting to a large audience, but I know that always public libraries are such a great place in the summer to take your kids. They're always running programs. They're always engaging kids, and I think
Central Air. Don't forget Central Air at the
there's
library.
No better feeling as a parent than to have your kids walk into a library and be so excited. And maybe that's me projecting from when I was a kid.
No, I think it's really good advice.
I lived in a world of kids, but I think as much as our parents, tried to kind of ignore us over the summer and send us out to play, there is that tendency as busy parents to send our kids out to play on the computer.
Cool thing about libraries is go to different libraries because there's lots of neat stuff. I walked into one in Rockwood not too long ago, and I was like, there's some really cool stuff here.
Mm-hmm. We did, I forget, Eric and I went to, they were doing a biodiversity talk. So that was throughout the school year last year. We did that. I mean, there's just so many opportunities. It's really a good place to start to see what's available for your kids.
All right, we're already bleeding into our next segment where we're going to talk about what we're going to learn. So for now, we're going to go to a break. Keep this conversation going. Find us on @ParentsCanada. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We are on Instagram. And, of course, we've got that brand new website we're going to talk a little bit about in just a few more minutes. We're going to be back. We're going to share some of those resources and what we learned, because we learned as parents today. You're listening to Parents Canada Talk Radio on News Talk, Saga 960. Welcome back to Parents Canada Talk Radio. I'm Jason Thompson. I'm here with Genevieve DeVries. We are talking about Summer Slide. Learned a lot today. A lot of really, really great insights. The first thing that I learned is I was right. Ah, ha, ha, ha. No, I'm just kidding. It's. I think that
he also has that tattooed across his
I think that there was some really great insight, because I have a feeling that before all of this I was. you get somewhat resistant because, people say summer slide and you're like, oh, more, you got to put the kid back in the education and in school and that sort of stuff for the summertime.
You always push back when I say camps.
Yeah. Well, camp's totally different. That's a totally different show. But the thing is that, I think that the data really, really supports it, but doesn't support it in a general sense. Like, you don't want to put your kids back, into kind of summer education to kind of keep pushing data at them. You want to customize this.
The key is finding a way to make it enjoyable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they are going to resist if it's sort of like, oh, we just finished school and every other kid. I mean, I think kids look around and they say, every other kid, they're out, they're having fun. I want to do that too. But I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think there's a way to find, to build what they've taken from school for the year and show them what the adult world is and let them start to dream about what they,
Well, and I think that starts with the gap, is by sitting down and identifying with your kids, what is it that is most effective. So, my basic example is, I have a son who's entering university in the fall, and I'm not worried about his ability to perform in the classroom and the slide. What I am worried about is his ability to get a skill set going and keeping that momentum for him, because he tends to have sometimes inability to hit deadlines or just doesn't seem to care that much. So we've been working on that over the summer. So here's some of the things that he's doing. He's not sitting in a classroom, but what he is doing every single day is he is doing a little physics tutorial, because when we went to the day at the university, and we asked one of the professors, what's one thing you wish kids could walk into the door with? He said, more physics. So I said, just watch a thing on physics, like watch a Khan Academy video, like one of the videos from the what's his name, John Green. He has a series of videos that are really good. So he does that. He listens to physics. Yesterday, he said to me, this blew my mind, and this was the thing that created hope for me, is he said, listen, he plays Minecraft a lot, loves Minecraft. They're building these incredible buildings. And he says, I figured out how to create a scenario, a series of math equations that can tell you which type of armor is the best type of armor. And then he figured it out. He figured out the variables and things like that. And then he released it to the community. So the Minecraft community can actually figure out, by plugging in some numbers, his data points that he created. And I thought, that's project-based learning. That makes me feel good, because it's something he enjoys, which is Minecraft. And it is something that I enjoy, which is that he's going to be okay when he heads off to university. And of course, the other thing that I'm teaching him is how to cook. I think I know how to cook. Do I know how to cook already? Yeah. That's. I just wanted the compliment. But the idea.
You're a gadget cook. You love the gadget. You love the Japanese rice cooker.
Yep.
You love the pizza oven. You love
and the sous vide. Oh my gosh, it's gone on and on. But for kids, it's great, because it's like, I know he's going to be in a dorm room, and what's going to be really easy for him. So I'm teaching him about higher levels of protein, and then how to get at those higher levels of protein. But again, none of that is classroom-based. Last night I said to the kids, there are 3 kids at home. I said, you guys are making dinner, and I'm going to sit out in the back patio with Genevieve and have a beer. It was great. Fantastic. I'm not encouraging drinking from anyone, but what I am saying is that this is the way that they learned, because they had lots of questions. They came out, where do I put this? How high should the heat be for this? All that sort of stuff. So we were able to coach them through that. But again, it's learning without having them feel like they're being lectured at. Which
That's what we really want you to have as your takeaway, is from the backyard parent.
I think that works really well. A couple other things I learned was about this idea about the behavior side, confidence. Really, that's what you're coaching, is the lifelong learning starts with that confidence. And what did I learn recently? There was a phrase that says confidence is that you've done it before and you can actually get into it going forward. So I think that's a really, really powerful thing, is to be able to look not just as a report card and see an A, a B, or a C, and just see an A, or B, or C, but to be able to break that down and say, what are the behaviors we're coaching there? And confidence being, I think, right at the top of that pyramid. And again, that could be, we're not trying to say don't approach traditional didactic learning. If you, in your assessment, realize that you need more times tables or things like that to help people go forward, help the kids go forward, that's one way that you can do that. But you can also do a lot of this experiential adult-based learning theory. I remember when you told me last summer that you were going out on the train, was it 3 days? 3 days that you had basically from Toronto all the way out to Edmonton? Mm. Yeah, I thought you were crazy.
Well, I would tell you, and we got seriously delayed because of all the wildfires, and it's quite an experience. But again, knowing that as I have such good memories doing it as a kid, and I think that's important. I mean, we talk about all of this, but it really is important too to connect with your child, because we know that children that feel loved and that feel connected with their parents, I mean, they do better in school too, right? So find those opportunities that give you that wide breadth of, I'm connecting with my kid, but I'm also teaching them, but I'm also feeling like, we're getting something out of it. And I think when I came back from the trip, the most important thing that I realized is that these are not about taking vacations, because you're going to have a huge letdown when you get back if you feel like it was supposed to be your vacation. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to build memories with our children.
I think that's huge.
What every summer is. Someone said the other day we only have 14 summers with them.
Oh, great. Now I'm sad. Look at that. I'm looking at Kelsey in the booth, and she's just shocked. She's like, what? 14 summers? But it is. I think that is an amazing takeaway, that idea about connection. And again, I know you and I have been having a lot of conversations recently about what kind of impact you can have on your kids. And that idea of love and connection is so valuable. And so them not being in school, this is really kind of interesting. I wish flipping it, right? It's not about what the kids are able to accomplish. It's about what the parents can get out of the relationship with the kids over the summer. It gives that time for renewal. I love that. That's so good. See, now you need to come back again, because you're just adding the value. Speaking of adding the value, we want to add some to you as well. We want to talk a little bit about Parents Canada. First of all, new website. It's gorgeous. It's I'm a design guy, design freak, and I looked at it and I went, this is great. It's easy to find stuff. It's easy to find the articles that I've written, and it's easy to find these three articles. These articles that are on the website. The first one is make a plan for summer that will benefit everyone. And again, that idea that you don't necessarily have to be in the classroom, but learning can be on the forefront. That's a really good one. Another one is Amber Mack's top 5 tips for smart summer fun. I've gotten a chance to hang out with Amber Mack, and she's just, her and her husband just love the kids so much.
Great.
And she really always does have really good tips, and really sober tips, again, around technology and how you can positively use that for the kids. Because again, we tend to think about technology as a bad thing or a bad word, but I'm going to be stumping for this a fair bit. There was also a great article in Parenting Science called "How to Prevent Summer Learning Loss and Still Have Fun." Actually, there's a typo in the title of the article. I think it says "How Prevent Summer Learning Loss and Still Have Fun." But there's a lot of great information in there about where the learning loss can happen. So if you find that your kids are kind of sliding back and that they're going to have some trouble, like someone in my household where entering high school, know that math is going to be a bear to wrestle, can give her the opportunity to be successful going forward. That would be a really, really good thing. This has been a really, really good thing. I feel like I learned so much, and I got the chance. We don't, because we're working so much, we never get the chance to talk to each other. So this is what we need to do: is host a radio show every single week. All right.
It's almost like we need this as a date night.
That's. We're going to be back next week with Lisa Durante and Jason Thompson to be able to talk about this. But for today, I want to thank Genevieve for being here. It's been so great. I want to thank everybody here for listening. And I want you to keep talking about Summer Slide. Find us at Parents Canada on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Call us next week. I'm Jason Thompson. I'm here with Genevieve DeVries. You have been listening to Parents Canada Talk Radio on Saga 960.